So this is another small prophecy of Jesus, and there are so many prophecies of Jesus. There's literally hundreds, and that's what makes the Bible so amazing is that it told us about Jesus hundreds of years before he came. It told us everything about him down to the T, and for him to fulfill all these prophecies is impossible. Unless he's God, it's impossible. And often, Jewish people, Muslim people, when you talk to them, they say, where in the Bible does it say that Jesus is God's son in the Old Testament? Because they'll say that just Paul made that up, and, that it's just a lie that Paul made up, where it's in the Old Testament, all around the Old Testament. We have prophecies of Jesus. Right here in Psalm 2, it says, "Kiss the Son, lest he be angry and ye perish from the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are all they that put their trust in him." So obviously it's showing us that there is a Son of God, and that if he's, displeased with you, you're going to perish. And the most displeasing thing to the Son of God, to Jesus, is for someone to reject the blood that he shed on the cross for their sins. To just trample that under their feet is the most angering thing that someone can do to Jesus. And when his wrath is kindled but a little, we know that Jesus is coming back in the last days, and we can tell that the last days, are swiftly coming upon us. And in the last days, Jesus is going to pour out his wrath on the earth, the Bible tells us. And those who are experiencing God's wrath are going to perish. But it says, "Blessed are all they that put their trust in him." So that's speaking of the Christians, those who have put their trust in Jesus. There's a lot of people out there claiming to be a Christian, but if they haven't put their trust in him, in Jesus alone, and accepted his blood for their salvation, they're really not a Christian, and they're not going to heaven. There's Christians out there that believe all sorts of crazy things to get to heaven. They believe you got to speak in tongues, you've got to keep the 10 Commandments, you've got to get baby baptized. And those are, false Christians. They're not real Christians. The Bible says you have to put your trust in him, in his finished work, and what he did for us on the cross. And that's how a person is saved. So, but this is a prophecy that came, 400 years before Jesus ever came on the scene. It's in the Jewish Torah. It's, in the Old Testament, which both the Muslims and Jews claim that they believe. It's right there. And it says, "Kiss the Son, lest he be angry," talking about Jesus. Very clearly, it's talking about Jesus. And if they don't see it, it's just because they don't want to see it. But anybody who's an unbeliever. When I was an atheist, I looked into the prophecies of Jesus, and they really spoke to my heart that this was true and that the Bible was true. And that's what the prophecies are meant to do. They came hundreds of years before Jesus ever came on the scene. They told us about him and what he was going to do. And that's the whole point. That's why they're there. And that's why we have the Bible. That's why God gave us his word to bear witness that he is our creator. So we can know how to go to heaven, and we don't have to fear death.